I want to thank everybody again for tuning in for our part one of our three-part career series. Part one of our three-part career series. I did throw a prediction up there. I'm hoping we hit this prediction. We're close, guys. We're close on the prediction. We're only about 50 viewers away from hitting that prediction point. Tonight, we're going to be covering something that's probably one of the top themes that show up in my DMs, what I frequently see on LinkedIn, and a common topic in our chats here on the Cyber Insecurity stream. We've talked about it several times on this stream, and we're going to be covering mentorship tonight. So this is a stream that's dedicated solely to mentorship. Now, many of you have heard me talk about it on stream. We've had Joel a couple weeks ago talk about it, and Jeff has pontificated on it. But listen, we know that we're just a bunch of crusty old dudes giving our opinions based on crusty old experiences, right? Well, tonight I'm super excited. You can tell from all the hype that I had in chat, all the hype I had in pre-roll, all the hype that I hyped it up on LinkedIn and Twitter. But I'm super excited to introduce somebody that I've had the privilege of getting to know over the last few months. She truly has an impressive background. She has spent years working in IBM's security solutions team, helping clients address their prevention, detection, and response to cybersecurity threats. From there, she went on to be vice president of cybersecurity research at the Tambellini Group out of Raleigh, North Carolina. She's coming up on her 1-year anniversary of being promoted to Chief Information Security Officer, or CISO, for the Tambellini Group. As if all of that in and of itself wasn't impressive enough, for about 2 years now, she's been the president of Battleship Security, who's focusing on enabling the future of the cyber workforce through mentorship. Now, listen, Battleship puts the InfoSec practitioner, that's you all on the other side of this camera, in the driver's seat of their career through practical resources to find your fit, getting and nailing that interview, and mastering your profession, whether it's incident response, penetration testing, or really any other cybersecurity role. So, all that aside, right, I've rambled on long enough. Everyone put your virtual hands together, drop some bits into chat, raise your glasses up, and help me. It's my pleasure to introduce and welcome Katelyn Ilkani. Sorry, I knew I was going to mess that up at one point in time. Katelyn Ilkani to the Cyber Insecurity stream. Katelyn, on behalf of my viewers and on behalf of my entire team at Cyber Insecurity, welcome to the show, and would you like to say a few words?
Neil, so glad to be here. We've been talking about this show now for a while, and I'm just so psyched to talk to everyone tonight. Please ask me anything about mentoring when we get to that point. I'm going to share my thoughts and lessons learned all around what I think is a life-changing thing, which is finding an amazing cybersecurity mentor. And couldn't be more excited to have this conversation. Thanks, Neil.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks for that, Katelyn. You can listen, you can get all of Katelyn's socials by using the ! guest in chat. And you can also use the ! Battleship to get links to Battleship's mentorship program as well. Now, because we have Katelyn and because this is a hot topic in our industry, I don't want to dawdle too long with Katelyn here when we go to our community news. And so I'm going to really rapid fire these. Most of these can be found by using the various Streamlabs commands in chat. Don't forget, tonight we're actually going to be doing a giveaway. You guys are so lucky. Like, I can't even begin to say how lucky you guys are for, like, this is literally the second giveaway of February, and we haven't even talked about the massive Hacked Planets giveaway that we're going to do, but we are going to be giving away some awesome Battleship stuff tonight on the stream. So you do need to be present to win that, but we are going to be giving away some awesome Battleship stuff that Katelyn has given us. So we've got that giveaway. Don't forget to make sure you use your Hacked Planet scores in chat to contribute as well. That does contribute to our February giveaway. Don't forget, the only other thing that I'll mention is, don't forget that on February 18th, we're going to have a very special stream with the team from Range Force, where we're going to be giving away a 1-year free subscription to their cyber ranges. So do make sure you tune in for that. So that's probably... Uh-oh. The guest command does not work. Uh-oh. It might be on a timeout. It might be on a timer. Hold on. Let me change the timer on that. There you go. I put it on. I changed the timer down to 0 for everybody who's spamming it. There we go. See if that helps with the guest. There we go. All right. It's on a 90-second internal cooldown. Okay, guys. I don't want you to spam the guest. Oh my God. Look, see, there it goes. See, that's why I put an internal cooldown on it. All right, we're gonna put that to see, this is what happens when you let chat run away with things. Going back on a 30-second cooldown timer. There we go. Going back on a 30-second cooldown timer. See, that's what happens. All right, so fastest coverage of community events I think I've done since we started the stream. So this is how we're going to handle tonight. We're going to spend the first-ish hour or so covering some quick topics and discussions between Katelyn and myself. And then the second half, we're going to kind of turn it over to the entire audience for an AMA style, which is typically what I do on a Saturday night anyway. That doesn't mean that I don't want you to get your questions in. I still want everybody to put their questions in the chat. The moderators will queue them up. That way we can go ahead and get to them right immediately as soon as we get to that AMA section. So make sure you do drop your questions in the chat, and we'll talk about it. So now, that's literally the fastest I've ever done that. Katelyn, you ready?
I guess. I'm as ready as I'll ever be able.
You got this. Because I'm going to start you off with something simple. I'm going to start you off with something incredibly simple, right? What is the current problem with mentorship in the cybersecurity space?
So this is really an interesting question that I kind of fell into this problem as I was spending a lot of time on InfoSec Twitter. And the problem is I've seen it and experienced it, is that a lot of people want a mentor. So people, whether they're trying to break into security, there could be a student, they could be in IT today and trying to break in, maybe they've been unemployed and are trying to shift gears, or maybe they've been in security, 20 or 30 years and they're looking for their next step. It's really hard to find a mentor. So the biggest problem is just the fact that it's hard to find the right person. It's hard to get people to respond to you. It's hard to understand how to navigate the relationship. And it just becomes really time consuming for individuals to go and try to find a mentor, and understand all of the pieces that go into how to successfully manage a relationship with a mentor.
Is that because we fail at mentorship in cybersecurity?
So I actually think in a lot of ways we do fail at mentorship. Is that terrible to say?
It's
I
not
have
terrible
some
to say.
opinions.
No, that's exactly why we're here. Real conversations with real people. Why do we fail at mentorship?
Well, people are so tired. People are incredibly overworked. They're burned out. And when you get to that point, there's not a lot of emotional capacity left to mentor other people. And that's actually, in my opinion, this is one of the biggest reasons why we have a hard time with entry-level jobs. When you have entry-level jobs in security, it requires training, it requires mentorship from the team. And what we see over and over again is that some teams are like, look, we don't have enough staff to dedicate to the mentorship component that's really needed. So I see this as a really pervasive issue.
Is it, who should be taking ownership for the lack of community caring about mentorship?
Well, I really believe in groundswell kind of forces, right? It requires people, individuals, to say, this is important to me, and it's important whether you're unemployed today or whether you even have a job today, and you're looking for people to help guide you. And then we need to start getting these organizations to care about it too. I mean, it's a combination of an individual and an organizational responsibility. And there's so many years of research now that's been done on mentorship, and tons of decades of studies. And what we see is when people do have mentors, they are less likely to leave a job. They report more job satisfaction. People with mentors make more money. They get promoted more often. If you're part of an organizational mentorship program, you're even less likely to leave your job because you're just so much happier in the job. So I see mentorship as being able to address people being able to break into security, people being less burned out in their current positions, and like generally like helping to pave the way for people to break in or advance.
But let me dig into that a little bit, right? Because mentorship isn't a new topic. Mentorship's been around, since the Knights of the Round Table and probably earlier. If companies really thought that mentorship was so important, they would invest more on it. So ergo, since they don't invest on it, and since they don't allow the people to work on it, do they are we lying to ourselves that mentorship is important, or have companies just decided that because it doesn't help the bottom line, they're just going to ignore the fact that it's important?
So I don't think that we're lying to ourselves that mentorship is important. I will, die on this sword of mentorship being extremely important. but when we look at doing this organizationally, it's really expensive and time consuming. So to get a mentorship program stood up properly, it takes a lot of resources and time and planning so that the basis of the program is right. Because there's also research that shows that bad mentors or mentorship programs without structure can do more harm than good. So if organizations cannot invest in the time and the energy it takes to build the program out and actually manage it, then it can be detrimental. So that's where we're seeing some friction. But I'm actually starting to hear from companies with this new remote workforce and what COVID has done, that mentorship programs internally at large organizations are getting a lot more attention.
When you say that, does that mean that we start to see people just acknowledge them in the HR conversation that, I wish we could put on our 2021 or 2022 roadmap a mentorship program? Or do you actually see companies saying we're going to allocate $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year, whatever their cost budget is that they're able to afford, towards mentorship programs?
They've started actually allocating real dollars towards the program. Now, what I haven't started seeing is everybody having access to the program. So today, there is a lot of focus on high performers in teams. So if you're, what they consider to be a top 20% hire, or somebody that they just can't afford to lose, they're more likely within an organization to invest in enrolling you in a mentorship program.
Okay. So I think with that out of the way, with kind of the problem statement out of the way, we kind of jump right into that. Let's take it back just a little bit. What is the role of a mentor versus a mentee? And this is something that we've had a conversation with on the stream. And I think a lot of people have a confusion about what the difference between those two roles are and what they're supposed to do.
There is a lot of confusion here. And one of the things that we've learned is that it's extremely important as we've built a mentorship program to define the rules and help people understand, how do you have this relationship over time and make sure that everyone's getting something out of it. So a lot of people think that a mentor should be a coach. So let's start with the mentor side. There's a confusion that mentors should be coaches. And, mentors are not coaches. It's not like hiring a career coach when you go get a mentor. Mentors are more like guides and sounding boards and advisors to you to help you get unstuck, to think outside of the box. In best case scenarios, mentors turn into what we call champions, where they are even willing to advocate for you. Maybe they're willing to make introductions for you to get a job. They're willing to open doors in your career now because they have really gotten invested in your relationship as time has gone on. So that's really the role of a mentor.
Let me. How does that compare and contrast to like a coach? Because you said that people confuse the two terms, and I've seen that. And that makes sense in terms of the guidance and kind of the vision and the foresight. How does that differ from a coach? And ironically enough, I've actually had somebody ask me in my DMs if they should hire a career coach to help them, throughout their cybersecurity career. So what's that difference there?
So career coaches are much more in the nitty gritty of what your resume looks like. How are you building and writing your resume? Are you building a personal brand? This is something career coaches like to talk about a lot, right? What is your personal brand? How are you talking about yourself on social media? How are you building your LinkedIn profile? They will get into typically less of the aspects of like in this case, cybersecurity. So career coaches aren't going to know typically, like, what are the career paths in security? A mentor will know that. They won't know more of those really domain specific things. They won't help you through a technical issue you're having at work, but they can do things like broadly help you get to that next career step if you're stuck, by working on things like that are very tactical, like your resume and your LinkedIn and your asking you questions almost like a therapist would. I like to talk about career coaching therapy.
So career coach, very tactical, very, very, let's fix the resumes, let's fix the LinkedIn, let's fix this. Mentorship should be, let's talk about your vision, let's talk about your long-term goals, let's talk about, the roadmap that we get you there, long-term versus short-term.
Yeah, so when, like, at Battleship, we look at mentoring like, let's say you have an overarching goal. Typically, people who are looking for a mentor have some kind of big goal. So they have a goal like, hey, I want to get my first job in cybersecurity, or I want to be a pen tester, or I've had somebody come to me who wants to be a director, right, at a startup in security, and talking about, so how do I make that happen? So there's a lot of different, like, big goals you might have to want a mentor. But in order to meet that big goal, great mentors help you set micro goals towards that overarching vision, because you're looking for, kind of like I said earlier, a guide, somebody that can say, well, hey, have you thought about this? Or why haven't you already met that goal? Right? So let's talk about that. Like, what do you think are the reasons why you are stuck here and you haven't met that goal? So let's talk about, what can you be doing? What can you be doing differently? Is it realistic? I mean, so mentors shouldn't discourage you, by the way. We never want mentors to discourage you. Mentors should be helping you problem solve, but also being positive. If they're discouraging you, it's not a good mentor.
What's the difference? Now, that's a distinct difference there. What's the difference between discouraging you but providing you direct, crucial, critical feedback?
So a mentor, instead of discouraging you, should say, you can meet that goal, right? You can do that, but there may be some steps you have to take before you can get there. So a realistic path for you may be that you need to be a sysadmin, right? Or you need to go to help desk before you break into security, based on your past history. Or maybe you should think about doing this over here. Let's see if we can get you an internship so you have the hands-on experience before you go for, you keep applying to jobs. So they should help you think more strategically about that larger goal. And it's instead of it being discouragement, oh, you're never going to get there. It should be, oh, hey, okay, so that's your goal. Let's talk about the steps you're going to have to take and how long it may actually really take. Like, what is the timeline towards that goal? Because what I see a lot is that people end up discouraging themselves because things are taking too long. I mean, I've had people write me and say, hey, I've been looking for a job in cyber for 2 years.
Right.
And I've just given up.
Well, that length period of time, I think that's, I know we're on a thread about mentors, and I do want to get to the mentee part of this, but I think that thread is important. I think, what you talked about hitting the right set of expectations, that you may be on a long road to a career path. How do mentors deal with maybe some unrealistic expectations, or how do you coach a mentee who has unrealistic expectations about their road into cybersecurity?
So this is a hard one, and it's really personal. So one of the things that we found is that in order for a mentoring relationship to work, there fundamentally has to be this bedrock of trust between the two people. And that requires some level of chemistry. I liken mentoring almost to dating. Okay.
That's funny you said that, because we said that a couple weeks ago as well. It's like, you're almost in a relationship.
Yeah, you are almost in a relationship, and every mentor may not be the right fit for you. So we encourage people to talk to a few people, especially if one mentor feels like they might not be a good fit. Like, okay, so see who might be a better fit for you, because in order for a mentee to be like open to hearing these messages, there has to be that trust. There has to be that like base relationship, and understanding. Otherwise, people will shut down.
Yeah. All right. So we've kind of pulled on that mentor thread a little bit.
Yeah.
What's the role of a mentee, and kind of like, what's it like to be on that side, and what makes a good mentee? What makes a bad mentee? Where should their head be at?
Yeah, so the first thing I want to say is that I think everyone should be a mentee. So that's my personal thing, is like, I think everybody at every career stage could use a mentor and could really benefit from being a mentee.
Is it a better way to say that? Is it a better way to say that everybody is a mentee, period, dot,
yeah.
Whether they know it or not, they're a mentee to somebody. They may just not have found their mentor yet.
Yeah, that's a nice way. That's kind of a poetic way to say it.
Yeah, exactly. If we're talking about relationships here a little bit, I just haven't found my right mentor yet.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's like, I just haven't met the one.
That's right.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing, because so for mentees, here's what I hear from mentors that don't want to work with people. Okay. So when we hear problems from mentors, whether they're in our mentoring program or not, I've seen this in other places. These are the things you don't want to do as a mentee. You don't want to come into a mentoring relationship with no idea about what your goal is. You don't want to come into the relationship and expect a transaction. So you should expect to invest, almost like you're dating, right? Like, this is like the first time you meet your mentor. It's almost like a blind date. And so you want to be investing in that relationship and not just trying to have like this transactional, like, oh, hey, what can you do for me?
Is a goal really quick? Let me pull on that one. Is a goal of a mentor and a mentee, if the mentee walks up to the mentor and says, I want you to help me find a job in pen testing, is that a right-sized goal?
So I think during those first conversations, I think that the better conversation to have is, my goal is to have a job in pen testing, and I'd like to explore with you how you might be able to help me. Right, on that path. Because you don't want to overwhelm your mentor at the beginning either, right? So if you go to your mentor and you're like, oh, hey, how are you going to get me a job? Like, oh my God, I don't even know you. Like, this is so that you have to just like pull that back a little bit and say, hey, let me tell you about myself and where I want to go. Like, my goal is that I want a job in pen testing, and I'd love to hear about you. And let's talk about like how would we work towards this together, where, I would like you to help me understand what I need to be doing to achieve that goal. And as that relationship progresses, then you can say, oh, by the way, do you think you could actually help me? Do you know anyone that might be hiring? Do you think you could make introductions for me? That kind of conversation can come later.
Okay. What else for mentees? What are some of the other bad things that you've seen mentees do, or that you've heard that mentees have done?
The biggest problem we see with mentees are that they flake out. So
what does it mean to flake out?
So they stop like responding to their mentor. They don't come to the meetings. They ask somebody for help, and then they have their mentor trying to help them and just not being responsive. And that's a big pet peeve of people that are mentoring, because they feel like they've put time and energy into the relationship, and they're really like giving of themselves and trying to do something nice, and then the person just isn't responsive. So when you think about, do you want a mentor? Are you ready to like be a mentee? One of the biggest things that I tell people is you have to be ready to commit to the relationship, and that it's a process. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And really being a mentee is thinking about like having a commitment, like probably at least 6 months of really building a relationship with your mentor, having conversations about meeting your goals, and it's an ongoing relationship. You're still dating for quite a while.
So it's interesting you say that. I want to kind of pull the two of them together, right? Because we talk about it being a relationship between the mentor and the mentee, and I know that you've got some behavioral science, psychology, background and history from your college days. Do mentors and mentees, do they have the emotional fortitude to have a normal relationship like a marriage and a mentor-mentee relationship at the same time? Or does that get emotionally and mentally challenging for one or both?
No, I mean, we talk a lot about the importance of having boundaries, right? So you need to have like some boundaries around the relationship. You come in and you should keep a lot of your personal life typically out of your mentoring relationship. Actually, should be really focused. Should be focused on your goals, focused on your professional life, focused on how you can do more to meet your professional goals. You don't, unless you really get into a friendship with your mentor or your mentee, you don't really want to start digging into a lot of personal questions. Actually, that's one thing that we tell people is a red flag. Like if you start meeting a mentor or a mentee and they're asking you a lot of personal questions, that's not a good
run away, clingy mentor, clingy mentee. I saw a bunch of chat talking about swiping left and swiping right as we talk about the relationship aspect of that. When you talk about that building trust, then I guess explain what's the process of building trust. If you're not supposed to talk about personal life, right, which is typically what you do in a relationship, what are the typical types of questions, or what is that interaction like between those two that kind of help build that trust or kind of help build that rapport?
So when you first let's break this out. So if you're finding a mentor on your own, and I talk to people a lot about how to find a mentor on their own, not just through our program. If you're finding a mentor on your own, you actually want to start with those base, like getting to know you kind of questions, right? I'm interested in this field and I see you work here. Would you be willing to have a call with me to chat about, your job? What's it like to work there? How did you get there? If you are working through our program, kind of that's been already taken care of for you. We handle all the matching and making sure that, we try to make sure it's a good fit right off the bat. But you still want to start with, just tell me more about yourself. What are you doing? What does your day-to-day look like? How did you get there? If these are questions you'd ask your mentor, like what do you see are the obstacles to get to where you are today for someone else? Those kinds of things. And you want to feel like they are open and willing to work with you. So both mentors and mentees need to have, some level of like vulnerability and openness to the relationship from the beginning. Because if either of you are too closed off or standoffish, that typically, it doesn't feel very good, right? It doesn't feel like you're going to be able to build that relationship.
So you talk about vulnerabilities. These are vulnerabilities that we shouldn't worry about patching. Sorry, that was a terrible cybersecurity joke. It's a terrible cybersecurity joke.
That's not one of those. That's not, we don't have, not just vulnerabilities.
Sorry, that was a really bad dad cybersecurity joke. Okay. So I think that kind of covers the difficulty that it comes in terms of finding a mentor. I think the bottom line is the mentorship road is not just like, hey, I'm going to send out a message and be like, hey, will you be my mentor? And then, it's instantly just like you pick somebody up. There's a process to it.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a mentor on your own, there's definitely a process. You want to think really deeply about why you want a mentor and what are your goals. If you come to someone that you think you might want to have mentor you without some goal articulated for yourself, mentors can feel really overwhelmed by that. So it's a lot to ask someone else to identify your goal. You have to have kind of at least that first thing articulated. Like even if it's like, I want to find my path. So if you're for people listening who are still trying to figure out where your place in cyber is, that's an okay goal. But as long as you can say, here's where I am today, and my goal is to find my path into security, and I'd like someone to help me walk through, what those paths might be and how my strengths fit them. That's a great goal. Or your goal could be, you want to get your first pen testing job. Or, we have mentees in our program that are like vice presidents of security, and their goal is to figure out, how to be a better manager. How do they get promoted to CISO? How do they go and get a bigger job? Maybe they feel like they're outgrowing their current organization and they want to go to a bigger one. How do they do that? So there's even executive mentorship that can take place.
So speaking of that, then I think that's a good segue then, because obviously there's a wide range to the career paths in cybersecurity, right? All the way from an analyst to a CISO like yourself. Is mentorship a one size fits all kind of job? Meaning, should somebody trying to break into the industry, should they be looking to a CISO for a mentor, or should they try to find a mentor that's a little bit closer to maybe overcoming the problem, that they're trying to overcome?
Well, this is also very personal, right? And it's not just like it. I look at this, and we look at this as a program. So Battleship, our program, is built around a lot of different components to finding a mentor. And one of them is even personality based. We have like a mini personality assessment that we do to figure out, like, are your personalities really going to match? But when, like, some CISOs stay really close to what's going on in the industry, what's happening with hiring, and they can be like great people to talk to. But for other CISOs, they might not have any idea what's going on, and their advice might be 20 years outdated. So it's like very person to person specific. Mm-hmm. And you have to talk to people. You just have to talk to people to find out. I mean, one of the things we do is we do all of that upfront work. So like we spend a ton of time talking to mentors, right? Talking to them, like, where are you in your career? What have you done? Who do you feel like you best mentor, right? Who do you think that you can really help the most? And that's how we do our matching, is we've already done all that background work.
Yeah. So I want to kind of pivot on you a little bit, and I'm glad that you brought up the distinction between the mentorship and the career coach, because I've got a list of questions here that I just I've aggregated through my DMs. And when I look at these questions, they actually don't seem like mentorship questions anymore, based on what you rattled off about the difference between like coaching and mentoring. But they're questions that I see folks ask me in terms of like, hey, I need mentoring, insert question X down here. So I kind of want to run them past you and kind of get your take on them. I'm gonna steal something from my friend David Bombal, who I've been doing a lot of videos with lately. I'm gonna put you in the hot seat. And so as a mentor, when you're speaking to hundreds of potential mentees out there, what is the role of certifications versus degrees in our industry? And where should your effort be focused if you're a mentor talking to a mentee?
So I would say that when you're thinking about getting a job in security, the best thing to do is look at what's in the job recs. Okay. So what are in the job requirements? And I have a lot of reservations about many of the undergraduate cybersecurity programs that are coming up today, and kind of what they're telling people, because I feel a lot of confusion and not a lot of guidance of some of the graduates. So
how so? Let's rat some of those out, because we do have a lot of people asking about it. So let's rat some of those out, because I think it's important for our folks to hear that.
Well, so I think that a lot of things are based on this idea that there's a skills gap in security, right? So there's a skills gap. There are many unfilled jobs, and a lot of these programs, boot camps, undergrad degrees are selling people on this skills gap. And hey, look, there's 3.5 million jobs unfilled. But what they aren't, I can't decide if they just don't understand, or maybe are willfully misguiding people. But most of those gaps are in senior level roles.
Yeah,
they're in mid to senior level roles. They're not in entry level roles. And when you even go and you do Like you take a subsection, somebody on LinkedIn recently looked at about 1,000 LinkedIn jobs, like randomly, to see how many of the postings were for entry-level positions. And it was, of those 1,000 jobs, it was like 10 to 20% of them were for more entry-level roles. So when you look at all of the messaging around the fact that there's this skills gap, and then we have all of these programs telling you that, boot camps, undergrad degrees, master's programs telling you that, you expect to come out and just be hired.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not happening. People are struggling.
But it sounds like they're struggling because there's a misperception of where those 3.5 million jobs are at on the hierarchy of availability.
Well, there's a misperception about where the job availability is, and there's also a misperception about what jobs should they be applying for? Should they be applying for an analyst? Should they be applying for GRC? There's so much job description confusion in the industry. NIST, NICE has the NICE framework has tried to come up with an overarching, dictionary of these jobs, but very few companies have adopted it, even though they've been working on it for like 10 years and it's been in circulation now for about 2. But it's like the Wild West in job descriptions. So you also have to be getting creative when you look at the job descriptions. But back to your point, Neil, about undergrad degree or certs. I see a lot more emphasis on the certification with some hands-on experience. And when you are looking at jobs, really being strategic about how you apply. So we take a step back. When I built this course that we have for free on our academy called Get the InfoSec Interview, one of the things that I did was I spent like a crazy amount of time doing research on what's happening in the job market and just generally, what are statistics? And so the fact is that, even if you meet every single criteria in a job rec, if you blind apply, you just put your resume in, you have about a 3% chance of getting an interview.
Did you say 3?
Yes, 3%.
Wow. Just from dropping your resume into a job rec, even if you match every single one of them, it's a 3% chance?
Yes.
I'm going to say that again because even that was insane. 3%, 1, 2, 3.
3%. So if what you're doing is just taking your resume, filling out an application online, you would have to apply on average to at least 100 jobs to get 3 interviews. So that's extremely time consuming. So what you want to do, and part of the reason why I'm a mentorship fanatic, is you have to be extremely strategic about your job search, and you have to have a plan to really find those jobs that are a good fit for you and network to get the interviews. So a lot of people don't like to hear this. A lot of people are like,
I'm laughing because I've said this before. It's something I very much preach.
I've had somebody tell me I seem, that can't be true. It's really old fashioned, it's 2021, but we're still just people. And in security, InfoSec is an extremely trust-based industry, just generally. Mm-hmm. It's a lot about who's vouched for you kind of thing. So getting really strategic, having the guidance of a mentor, especially if you're job searching, to help you think through what jobs might be a good fit for you. How do you go about trying to find somebody at that company? You find the job, now you go look for somebody who works at that company, right? And talk to them and see if they're willing to help push you internally. That's the best way to get hired in security.
So I'm glad you mentioned that because I've emphasized one of the very first videos I did with David Bombal, and one of the things I've talked extensively on the stream about is the value of networking. As a matter of fact, everybody who's listening now hopefully is participating in my LinkedIn challenge with to them, which is to try to get 1,000 LinkedIn connections by the end of 2021, which is entirely doable. Do you support that challenge?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. What is and you touched on it a little bit, but I want you to pull on that thread a little bit. In your mind, what is the value of networking in our industry, especially when it comes to getting a job?
So when I got my first grad degree, which was in public health, it had nothing to do with security, but during during the first day, they had everybody in there for, first day presentations, and one of the presenters said, "You network or you not work."
Oh, that's a good
And
one.
And that has stuck with me my whole career. And I think it's even more true in security than it is in other industries. I did a poll on Twitter a few months ago, and a few thousand people responded. And I said, "How many jobs have you gotten through networking? None, one, all of your jobs." And of the 2,500 or so respondents, about 75% of them had gotten at least one job through networking.
So other than the really direct speech to somebody who says, they hate networking, they don't have a LinkedIn, they think social media is the devil and they should run away from it. Like, outside of just saying suck it up and do with it, and I like your statement. I'm probably going to steal that. You either network or you not work. I'm probably going to steal that from you. What do you tell somebody who's apprehensive about networking, or who's an introvert, or who thinks that they suck at networking? What's your guidance for them on that?
Well, I would say, I also find networking extremely uncomfortable. I am introverted. Up until about a year ago, I didn't spend any time on LinkedIn or Twitter. I had to force myself to do it. It was like exercising. It's like exercising a muscle. I mean, so one thing is, if you're just starting out, my best advice would be to try. Just try. What's the worst thing that happens? You're still in the same boat you're in now, and you're not networking, right? But if you try, let's say even spend every Saturday you spend 20 minutes on it, and then maybe you work up to 10 minutes a day in the morning while you're having your coffee. You're working on it a little bit. And that could be really, really simple things. It could be as simple as being on LinkedIn and interacting with a post. Okay, so the first thing you can start doing is, commenting on other people's posts, getting in some of the LinkedIn groups, making some comments there, and starting to just casually casually network. Another thing you can do if you don't like the social media route is, because of COVID, so many conferences are online now. There are tons of opportunities to network in ISC squared events, B-sides events, ISSA. There are local chapters of those things that have monthly meetings. Like ISC squared and ISSA usually have some kind of monthly meeting depending on your local chapter, and you could just start joining those. And so now you're networking and discussing in a much smaller group.
Is that also is networking how most people end up finding their mentor?
Yeah, so if you don't want to go through a program structure like what we've done at Battleship, then that is definitely the way you find a mentor. There is really no other way to do it. You have to be talking to people. You have to be saying, almost, one thing to do is even just to say to everybody you meet, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm trying to do. And oh, by the way, I'm looking for a mentor. Do you know anyone? And you start those conversations, and I can see in the chat people talking about Twitter. I actually love InfoSec Twitter. I haven't had any negative interactions on InfoSec. I mean, I'm jinxing myself.
But
now,
I was gonna
right?
say, but you know that they exist out there.
Oh yeah. Oh, I absolutely know they exist. I mean, I've had some trolls every once in a while, and you know what? Just be hot on that block button. Just be nope, don't. No, don't like you, and you'll be fine. So I actually have gotten unbelievable relationships off Twitter. I met you. We met off Twitter.
We did. We met off of Twitter. Absolutely, we did.
So I would encourage you to not discount Twitter, actually. And I have a guide I can send you. I can send you a link to share with everybody if you want on like how to get the most out of
post it on Twitter and tag me. So make sure you're following, hit !socials or !guest and follow Katelyn's Twitter and my Twitter. And I'd say post it up on Twitter, and that way everybody can find it there. And that way, if you don't have Twitter, this is your encouragement to go start up a Twitter account, follow Katelyn and myself, and then you can get this guide to doing this networking from Katelyn.
There you go. And so this guide is like all about how to get the most out of Twitter. Like how do you use it? How do you build a brand? How do you network using Twitter? I love it.
Nice. Okay. So then I think the last question. So I mean, I think we've beat up on networking, and I'm sure it'll come up a lot in some of the questions that we'll get to later. Because I like you, I find it incredibly important. I think like you, I've probably got my first job coming out of the military through sending resumes, but since 2013, every job I've had has been basically through networking. We talk about mentorship. And I want to talk, you'd mentioned the career coaching, and maybe this is probably more along the career coaching than it is the mentorship path, but should somebody pay to rework their resume, their cover letter, or their LinkedIn? Not mentorship, but just should they pay for that type of resume, cover letter, LinkedIn type of service?
So I think it depends, and I'll tell you why. So I've built a course I talked about earlier, Get the InfoSec Interview, that includes a guide about how to write your resume and how to write your cover letter, and it's totally free. So anybody can go sign up for Get the InfoSec Interview. And so if you feel like you can look at a template and do a good job, if you can look at a template of a resume and like take it and like, so build a base resume that's like your standard resume that maybe you update every year, that you then modify a little bit for every job you want to apply for. And then the cover letter template is like a template to, you can like, it's almost like you can plug and play, right? I've written it out and you can plug and play. But if you feel like you can do that pretty well with some guidance, I don't necessarily think you need to pay. But if you feel like if you're at a point where you've been applying for jobs a long time, you're really struggling, nothing is working, it may be worth it to pay for a resume and cover letter review, and to make sure that you're really putting yourself in the best light. Like, look, your resume is like a billboard. It's an ad. Its only job is to get you a job interview. Like, that's all your resume should do, is to
regardless
help you get that
of whether
interview.
you submit it blindly or give it to a network contact, it is your billboard ad.
Yes, regardless of how you're using it, it's your billboard ad. And so what you want to do is not make the person reading the resume think very hard. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, you want to give them everything they need to say, oh yeah, okay, I want to talk to you. And that's like, okay, so take a step back and think about, if you were the hiring manager and you were looking at this resume, would you talk to you?
Yeah.
And if not, you got to do some more work. And I think that kind of iterative exercise is more valuable than paying somebody else to fix your resume. Especially if the person doing it is not like really well versed in cybersecurity.
Yeah. So on that same note, and I want to ask you a really, really hard question, Katelyn, since we're on this topic as well, right? And I just want everybody to know that you agreed to come on this show, willingly, right, voluntarily, right? But one of the things that our viewers like about us is that we have real conversations with folks like you, and that includes not pulling punches on our guest. And so, what I'd really like to do is I was surprised when I went searching for mentorship programs online, how expensive, even by my definition, how expensive they were. I couldn't believe some of the prices of these. And obviously I've sanitized some of these so that, I don't oust anybody, who's out there doing that. But this website where I found where people were offering cybersecurity mentorships cost you anywhere from $240 a month to $300 a month. In these two cases right here, these are really just people who are, as you can see, a cybersecurity consultant and a systems engineer. They don't have 20 years of experience. They probably have 3 to 5 to 6 or 7 years worth of experience. So probably still into that mid-level. On the flip side of that, you have David Taylor, who in January, he launched his Cyber Mentor Dojo completely free. And so that was kind of on the flip side of that from the paid perspective. Now, personally, I'm very selective about who I mentor and the amount of time that I put into mentorship because, frankly, there's only 24 hours in a day. And despite popular belief, I do require some sleep. And so tell me, Katelyn, tell all of our guests here, while I acknowledge your monthly fees are definitely cheaper than some of these that I found out there and that I've seen, there are some in our industry that subscribe to the fact that mentorship should be free. And so what's your take on that? And how do you justify charging mentees for mentorship?
I love this question, Neil. I'm actually so glad you asked. So let's like dig into this, and later on when we get to ask me anything, I'm happy to talk more about it. But in our program, so we have one-on-one mentoring today, and we are going to be launching group mentoring March 1st. In the one-on-one mentoring program, mentoring is free. So we match you with up to 3 mentors. The mentors are volunteers. If the mentors weren't volunteers, the program fees would be like a lot more. They would be crazy. So what you're paying for is the program. You're paying for all the structure and time that we've put in to make the program successful. So today, it's taking about 1 full-time person to manage the mentoring program. We have a technology platform. We have an incredible amount of administration. And the time that's required of that is extremely significant. So that's what we're asking people to pay for. We're asking people to pay for the administration and program building so that you can be successful. I mean, we talked about this earlier. Mentoring requires a structure. Like, I believe this with like every ounce of my being. We don't want to just throw 2 people together or say, hey, go find your own mentor. I mean, what we're doing is saying we're asking our mentors and our mentees to go through an interview process with us. We onboard personally every single person that joins, every mentor, every mentee. And then we go through, what are your goals? What are you looking for? What are your strengths? And we use that as the basis of a very sophisticated matching process. And then when you go into our platform, you have to answer a quick personality assessment. You have to answer a lot of questions about yourself and what kind of cyber domains you're interested in, and the mentors do too. And then we take the matching algorithm, we get a percent match score, and then we hand match people based off of the matching algorithm and what we know about you from your interviews to put you together. We match every single mentee with up to 3 mentors at one time. Some people only want 1 mentor. Some people want to go ahead and meet 3 people. And we personally get involved if your mentor is not responsive. So what happens, if you get matched, somebody got busy, maybe your mentor had an emergency, they're not responding, we get involved, we rematch you. What happens if you don't like your mentor, right? And that's you met somebody, that chemistry we talked about earlier, that basic relationship chemistry is not there. That's not a problem. We rematch you, and you're not losing any time. You're not, you don't have to be the burden and the onus isn't on you to find somebody. And then finally, we give everybody, mentors and mentees, a roadmap for how to be successful in the relationship. How do you handle your first meeting? How do you handle your second? How should you be thinking about and even qualifying for yourself if the relationship is working? Then we also provide you a way to track your goals. So for us, the fee is really around all of that structure.
It just sounds like it's all administrative because all your mentors are completely and totally voluntary. They don't get paid anything.
That's right. And, quite frankly, our mentors are super excited to be part of a paid program.
We had Joel on 2 weeks ago, and Joel, he raves about your program. He thinks it's amazing.
Well, that's so nice to hear. We've had a lot of the people participating, we've had great feedback. And part of the thing about being part of a paid program, we talked earlier about sometimes mentees flake out. We've kind of unintentionally done an A/B test. We have the paid program, but then we have given some of these subscriptions away. We've given them away in the past, and we're going to have a giveaway tonight. But what we've seen is a lot of times the people who have the giveaway subscription, they don't show up. They flake out, right?
Wow.
And
Nobody on
it's
the Cyber Insecurity stream is going to do that. I'm pointing at you all. Nobody on the Cyber Insecurity stream is going to do that.
Thank you. I would ask that you not, if you get it and you don't want to participate, like, please participate.
We've got the best community here. Nobody here is going to do that. I'm looking at all y'all. Looking at all y'all.
I believe it. So it's amazing though. Actually, we wouldn't have anticipated that there's a psychological commitment that happens to when you invest in the program that doesn't exist when it's free.
Wow. I guess subconsciously that makes sense. I probably never would have thought that like you get something for free. It's like, gosh, you should really try that out and do it. Well, I thank you for that, and I think that's an awesome conversation so far. I think this is a good spot since we are talking about free stuff and we are talking about giveaways and things like this. I think this is an awesome time to do a giveaway. What do you think? So listen up, everybody. Katelyn and her team at Battleship have agreed to give 3 lucky viewers tonight a 1-month free pass to Battleship Mentoring, so that you guys can give it a spin. This is so what's going to happen is we're going to start up the giveaway. Streamlabs is going to tell you the command that you use to get entered into the giveaway. So make sure you're paying attention to chat. So if you're listening to me in the background and you want to get in on this giveaway, now's the opportunity to bring up that console so that you guys can participate in chat. Listen, I can assure you, I can promise, no matter how many times you smash that command that Streamlabs gives you, I promise you're only going to get 1 ticket. I promise. Streamlabs is pretty good with that, okay? There are no extra tickets for subs or non-subs. We don't do any of that around here. This is literally open to everybody. And so so as we roll into the giveaway, Kate, I want to take this moment really quick to, we're not done for the night, obviously, but we're just going to give away three free monthly passes to Battleship mentoring program. I want to thank you, Katelyn, again for coming on the Cyber Insecurity stream. I know our moderators have probably queued up some questions by now, so I'm going to start to ask them to push those on the screen for us to answer. I'll remind everybody to get their questions in chat for Katelyn or myself, but I encourage you to focus them on what advice or guidance you'd like from Katelyn, and we'll get them answered. And so remember, only post questions once. Repeat questions could be considered spam, and you might get a timeout or a ban if not careful. And so looks like we've got the first question up here right now from Nitro Insider. How do we sign up to be a mentor on Battleship, like volunteer?
Awesome. Thanks for asking. Our mentors really do make all of this possible. So I have so much love for our mentors. And really, if you want a mentor, thank you very much. So the best way to do it is to send me a message on LinkedIn or Twitter. My DMs on Twitter are open, and you can also message me on LinkedIn, and I'll send you the information about how to sign up. We basically do an intake call, like an onboarding. The initial call lasts about 30 or 45 minutes. And then we get you rocking and rolling in the program.
Is there any particular, so I'm going to kind of elaborate on that a little bit. Is there any particular mentor? I mean, obviously all volunteers are welcome, but are there skills gaps or area gaps or expertise gaps, or maybe ages in, time in service, time in career that are of particular need for you?
So right now we have a lot of requests for pen testing. People who have a pen testing background or a red teaming background that can talk to that discipline. The base requirements are you have to have been in security at least 2 years. Most of our mentors, and that's if that's to work with people trying to break in. Most of our mentors have, I would say like 7 to 10 years of experience, and then we have some people who've been in security 30 years. Like they really span the gamut. And another area that we have seen an increasing amount of requests for is GRC, so the governance, risk, and compliance space, and understanding how to get into GRC. So those are 2 really big areas. And then I also just want to mention here, we have the one-on-one program live today, but we also are going to have group mentoring, and we are launching that March 1st. So we need volunteers who can do group mentoring too. So groups are going to be up to 10 people. And it's going to be a lot less expensive than one-on-one mentoring. So if you're listening tonight and you feel like you just cannot, you can't afford one-on-one mentoring, group mentoring is going to be $13.99 a month. And we're going to have 2 use cases to begin with. Where the first use case is going to be just generally breaking into security, like finding your path, breaking in. Second use case is going to be breaking into pen testing.
So I like how you put that. Like, you're driving the cost down because you already recognize that there's some issues, with it. But the second thing is that you're actually standing up a group mentorship program that's very, very focused on getting into cybersecurity and breaking in. That's hands down like the number one question that I get asked in my DMs about that. So that's awesome to see. So Net Frazier comes through with the next question. He says, question, first I want to say you look amazing tonight. Be good, Frazier.
Thank you.
Be good, Frazier. The question I have is it okay to have more than one mentor at a time?
Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine to have more than one mentor at a time. We even, within our program, with our one-on-ones, we even match people with more than one mentor. And sometimes it's just to find the right fit, but sometimes people want to continue with more than one mentor. And some use cases I can think of right off the bat to have more than one mentor. One would be, let's say you want to have a mentor for a more technical discussion. So there's I talk about mentorship in kind of like 2 broad groups, like overall professional mentorship and then technical mentorship, right? You're stuck on a hack the box challenge and you want something. Those are two different use cases. So you might have a technical mentor, and then you might also have a mentor that's a more overarching career kind of mentor. And I don't see any problem at all with talking to more than one mentor.
Awesome. Same Cub, glad to see you in chat. Same Cub. If you have more than one mentor, should you or should you not tell the other mentor about each other? Are you cheating on the other mentor by getting back to the relationship? I think we may be taking these relationship analogies a little too far, but should you let them know that you're in a polyamorous relationship with the other mentor?
Your mentor. That's a very funny analogy. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have that stuck in my head now. But I think that it depends on if you've built that trust with your mentors. So if you're talking to your mentors and they can tell you're committed to the relationship and you really value them, then there shouldn't be any problems at all with saying, and I'm talking to another person and we have conversations about, XYZ. Like that, it shouldn't be, there shouldn't be
don't pit them against each other. You know what, Bob, my mentor Bob told me that not to do that. Now you're telling me to do that. You're saying that's a bad idea.
Yeah, don't pit them against each other. You don't want to make them feel dumb or like you don't value them.
We can carry that analogy just a little too far. Next thing you know, there's gonna be a Battleship spinoff that's gonna be like Battleship Mentor Therapy. Where you have to go to mentor therapy because you're in a weird relationship with your mentor.
Oh my God. Well, that's also part of the reason we have a program fee, because we do that too. So problems.
All right, so Angry Amoeba comes in. He says, have you found a lot of mentors, mentees continue their relationship for multiple years, or have they been ending the relationship after they achieve their original goal? That's a good question.
Yeah, so, the program that we've been running just started in November. And so we haven't had it running for a few years yet to know within our program. But generally, when you look at research about mentoring, people tend to work with a mentor at least 6 months and sometimes multiple years. And it could be that you end a mentoring relationship with one person, but then get into a new relationship with another person because you have something else to learn now from a new person. So this is really dependent on what your original goal was, and if you feel like that mentor who helped you meet that original goal can continue to help you go further.
Is that but again, it gets back to that relationship thing where it's like you may find a mentor who you gel with, you click with, he or she can help you achieve multiple goals in your career path depending on what their experiences are and things like that. And so that's a case where that relationship may go on for years, but then, you know, you may find another mentor who's just like, hey, I want to learn finance. Can you help me learn finance? They help you get over that goal, and then you kind of move on from there.
Yeah, and I think, you know, in general, for any of these mentoring relationships, this idea of coachability becomes really important. We didn't talk about that, you know, but I like something about your comment just like made me think about this.
Go for it.
So coachability, this is extremely important. Even if you are, let's say you are already working in cyber and you're thinking about like you want a promotion or you want to go get a new job at a new org, the number one problem I hear from hiring managers is that candidates don't appear coachable.
Now, what does that mean?
Second problem,
what does coachable
so that
mean?
means that coachable means that you're not open to learning, right? That they don't think that they can bring you on the team and that they can train you up, or that they can that you're going to be open to like the new ideas or the structure of the team, right? So this whole this notion of how well can you take input from other people, absorb it, and then do something about it. So that coachability issue is something that I hear just a ton from hiring managers, and that also comes into play with a mentoring relationship, right? Mm-hmm. Because if your mentor is trying advice and you never take it, and like it's not going to go great. The second thing I would say is empathy becomes a big deal in relationships, all relationships, and including your mentoring relationship and your work relationships. So I hear from mentors and hiring managers that empathy problems can kind of come into play too, where, you know, how empathetic do you appear to other people? And in job interviews, this can come into play when an interviewer might ask a question like, let's say, you're working here and, the CFO gets phished, or like somebody, some receptionist gets phished. Like, what is your reaction going to be? And what they're hoping to hear is that you're going to show some empathy, right? That you're going to say,
no, hey, nobody in cyber is going to do that. Everybody in cyber is just going to groan and moan about it. I'm sure that's a huge problem. Okay. So this is going to be the last question for now. Don't stop with the questions. We're going to continue them, but this is going to be the last question before we announce the winners for the giveaway. So this effectively is your last call to hit that exclamation point raffle to get into the giveaway. So Shanna B123 says, Katelyn, how do you know, this is another good question, how do you know if you're ready for a mentor and that service like Battleship would be right for you? How do you know that you're ready for a mentor?
So you're ready for a mentor if you can articulate a goal. That's like really like the baseline for having a mentor is you have a goal that you can clearly articulate, and that you can go to a mentor and say, hey, here's my goal. Can we make a plan for me to reach that goal? Right? Let's talk about like all the reasons why I think I haven't been able to do that. Or, this can come in a lot of forms, right? It could be you are trying to decide whether to stay or leave a current job. How do you get a promotion? How do you break in? Like there's tons of different use cases and like overarching goals, but as long as you have that initial goal, finding your path, you are ready for a mentor. And especially if you're trying to break in, I would say, if you're trying to break in and, like really, really struggling, maybe group mentoring is a really good place to start for you, as opposed to the one-on-one mentoring. You learn a little bit more about yourself, you get more used to the process, and then you jump into looking for a one-on-one mentor.
Let me flip this around. How do you know when you're ready to be a mentor?
So that's a great question, because there are some terrible mentors that we talked about. You are ready to be a mentor if you feel like you can commit the time to this person, right? Your mentee, and you can regularly commit time. So that's one of the first things, right? One of the like really low bar is, are you willing to commit like an hour a month or 30 minutes, every week or whatever it is to someone, and then keep that commitment. The second one is, are you able to, ask questions, help guide people without forcing your own opinions, or forcing a plan of action on this other person. So in mentoring, you want to help, you want to share your ideas, help people think through how they might get there, but you don't want to try to force them into an action. That's not a great mentoring thing. So this is a little bit personality specific too. As opposed to do you think you can do that? Right? Can you handle it if your mentee doesn't take your advice? Can you handle it if you think that they're doing, that they might be doing the wrong things, or are you going to get really, really frustrated and
or offended by it?
Or offended, yeah. Or offended.
Wow. Okay. So with that being said, keep the questions coming. We're not done with, answering questions at all by tonight, but I do want to get to our giveaway. So we're going to go ahead and close the entries for the giveaway. We already made the last call. So here we go. Drum roll. I need to create this graphic, or get Sec IT guy to do it. So here it is. We're going to pick 3 winners. Listen, real quick. If you win, message Carmen Mod. And what do you need from the winners to get them enrolled, Katelyn?
So if you win, all I need to get you enrolled is your email address, and you will receive an email from my team to do an onboarding call and fill out your mentee profile.
Okay. So send your
also your name. Please include your first and last name.
And all right, so there you go. So send Carmen Mod a message with your first and last name and your email and your Twitch handle, so that you'll probably come in on Twitch anyway. But all right, so here we go. Drum roll. Picking 3 winners. Winner number 1, Rando194. Congratulations on your free month of mentorship. We're going to pick the second winner. Caxiri. Congratulations. And then we're going to pick the third winner. Claw Overdraw. Congratulations to our 3 winners. Make sure you do message Carmen Mod. You have to be present to win. So make sure you do message Carmen Mod. If we don't hear from you in the next 10 minutes, we will give your spot away. But congratulations to our 3 winners. And again, Katelyn, thank you so very much for enduring we still have more questions, Katelyn. You're not done by any stretch of the imagination, but thank you so much for enduring these questions. Keep the questions coming. We are going to continue to kind of roll into more of an AMA style, and we're going to just kind of pound Katelyn with questions until the top of the hour. If you didn't win and would still like to participate in the Battleship Mentoring Program, you can get a discount code Katelyn and her team have provided to you all, the viewership, as being part of the stream. And so you can hit that ! Battleship and get the Cyber Insecurity code. To be part of that, so you can do that. And so with that being said, we're going to go back to question and answer for Katelyn. As soon as Carmen Mod pushes me a question, there we go. Here we go. Tron Demon says, I was looking into Battleship, and it's a pretty good commitment financially. How long is the typical process?
So we tell people to plan for a 6-month relationship. You could be in the program shorter or longer, but typically 6 months is a good guesstimation of getting a lot of value, starting to hit those goals that you're setting. And there is a 30% off coupon code that you can get through Neil's Twitch here, but it is definitely a commitment. I mean, it's a lot of it is around being able to, and we don't make money. A lot of people ask me oh, you guys must be making so much money. No, we're losing money. We're spending a lot more money on this than we are making. So yeah, it's really just trying to help cover some of our admin fees.
Yeah, but you'd say at least bank on 6 months. Both, that first month, identify some goals, get a feel for your mentor, build that trust relationship, and then road mapping, and then just kind of going through that mentorship process.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Then you roadmap it. Like we give everybody a structure to say, start identifying some micro goals and actions towards those goals. And then those next meetings, you're going to come back and it's going to be like, okay, have you met them? And in between your video calls with your mentors, you can do live chat. So like right within our platform, you can chat with them. And, a lot of our mentors are super responsive. We're about at 50, 60 mentors right now. We've signed up a ton of new mentors the past few weeks. Our mentors, they run the gamut. They're in security at startups. They're in security at huge established tech companies. They're CISOs of major brands. They're people who are in, cloud security, red team, blue team. That we have people who are in like just compliance, right? Who are like more on the auditing side. So it really spans the gamut of who you can work with and their knowledge base.
Awesome. So again, we don't pull any punches here. This is a question direct from our guest, and I want you to be very transparent, very honest with it. Juster18 wants to know, is it cheap to expect free mentorship?
No, it's not. It's not cheap. I would say that, there are, like Neil, you mentioned earlier, there is like this new program, Cyber Mentor Dojo, that came up. I tell people a lot, if you're a veteran or a military spouse, you can get into a program called Veterati. It's also free mentorship. It's really more about like typically the free mentoring programs don't have the structure and support system in place. So you have to drive a lot of that personally, right? You have to, so instead of like investing for other people to take that on for you, you have to invest now in like really building the structure about how are you going to manage this relationship for your mentor? What are you going to do if the relationship isn't working? Right. So this is something I would keep in mind if you're in a free mentorship program like Cyber Mentor Dojo or Veterati or anything. If you're having an ongoing discussion, what do you do if your mentor stops responding to you? What do you do if you just don't feel like it's a good fit? How do you decide if this is the right mentor for you? And like all of these kinds of things, you just have to take on yourself and just know that like that these are things to keep in mind.
Yeah. So I mean, again, not cheap, you pay for what you get, and there is a ton. And I saw somebody spam it in chat. What was the name of the veterans mentor program that you'd said again?
It's called Veterati, V-E-T vet or E-R-A-R-I. I can't spell, like I have to write it down.
Okay, Sec IT guy, can you go find Veterati, please, and post a link for that in chat for everybody?
And that's really good, especially if you want to have like one-off calls. It's really good.
Yeah. Dave Sec, True Cyber. Apparently, maybe we crashed your Battleship mentorship page. Apparently, it has a 404 error message. Don't know if you want to yell at your husband and tell him to go look at that. Yeah, Great. Yeah, that's okay. We may have crashed it. Same Cub says that he's in, so he may be in it. So it may be interesting. So Angry Amoeba comes back with another question, Katelyn. How long is the onboarding process? So I guess this kind of gets back to the other one. Is you're still going to stay with 6 months on that one?
So for onboarding for our mentorship program,
yeah,
is fast. So the onboarding is you take about 10 minutes to fill out your profile. It has and it asks you questions. You just fill it out. And then we do typically between 30 and 45-minute phone calls. And this is both for mentees and mentors to learn more about you, what you're looking for, what do you want to get out of it, who would be your ideal mentor. And then we hand match you.
Okay.
And you start going. So it takes depending on how quickly you fill out your profile after you sign up, and then how soon you sign up for the onboarding call, we typically match you within a few days.
It's a pretty fast process.
Yeah, it's fast to start meeting your mentors.
Okay. Slagathor54 says, here's a real generic question. How do I find a mentor outside of a mentorship paid program? Is reaching out to someone within my company in the industry a good idea?
Yeah, so I would say yes. I did a whole webinar about how do you find a mentor. If you sign up for Get the InfoSec interview on our academy, the webinar we placed, kind of put it as like a bonus module at the end. If you want to hear me go on about this for like 45 minutes, like just this topic. But yeah, absolutely. If you're in a company, you can definitely reach out to people within your company to see if they might be a good fit to be a mentor for you. I would say that it's still anytime you're going to look for a mentor outside of a program where people have kind of already identified themselves as a mentor or available for mentorship, you want to start the conversation more along the lines of, hi, can we have a coffee or virtual coffee?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to learn more about you. I'd love to learn more about how you got to where you are. Can you, or would you be willing to share your story with me? And you build this more of like a rapport. And then if you feel like that goes well and you like them, now you've had more of a conversation, you can say, oh, can we do this again? Can we have this kind of call again? And then from there, you can graduate into, oh, by the way, would you be my mentor?
So couple first dates, you kind of go out on a date a couple times, you have some coffee together, and then you ask them to the prom.
Yeah, or propose, or
wherever you're at in that analogy process, right? AJ19 says, Katelyn, how's your experience currently as a CISO? Can you please let us know?
No, so this is a great one. So I was telling Neil before this, I'm mostly acting as a VCSO now in for the Tambellini group because my job at Battleship is really full time. So I help them with understanding a basic security program. And for me, the path to doing this was also really convoluted. A lot of people you talk to about how did they get into security, it's like not straightforward. There's a lot of frustration about this. People are like, just tell me how to do it. It's like, well, everybody's done it differently. It's all very like not prescriptive. But I really got into security at a reorg at IBM and decided I loved it and got a master's in cybersecurity at Brown. It finished that while I was at the Tambellini group, and then got into cybersecurity, like program management and program building. So my experience with it is that, the CISO role is really strategy. The CISO role is really around how do you build security strategies and how do you put together a lot of moving pieces and make the overarching decisions about, where the investments have to be in the program. So CISOs, really good CISOs, I'm not technical, but a lot of really good CISOs at really big organizations are still very technical people so that they can understand those deeper conversations that are happening among their teams. But the role itself is not a technical one. It's very much a strategy position. And Neil can talk to this. You're doing this kind of job at a very large organization.
Yeah. Is real quick before I ask this next question, back on the CISO conversation a little bit here though, do you find it challenging, and I don't want to dive too much into this as because I know it's a touchy subject, but how has the diversity been in the CISO organization? How has it been to be a diverse candidate in an organization when it comes to being a CISO? And have you found that challenging, or have you found any, have you found any of those normal stigmas that we hear about, from being a female in a CISO role?
I haven't found it myself, as I've been working as a VCSO at the Tambellini group. It hasn't been that way for me, because it's a very small organization. It's a woman-led leadership team there, but I hear it a lot from other people. And it's still the truth that I don't run into very many women who are in leadership positions in security. So you can see that there is, this issue among elevating women to the leadership positions, and in women feeling welcome, I think, within the security space. I haven't personally experienced a lot of that, but I've heard a lot of stories.
Cyprat comes through with a question that says, I'm currently going to school for my bachelor's. Would you recommend waiting for a mentor till I'm done with my degree, or would it be okay to try to find one now?
I think you should try to find one now. Just my 2 cents. I would say that the earlier you find a mentor, the better. And part of the reason is that mentors can help you network, right? So we were talking earlier about, you network or you not work. So going ahead and finding a mentor now can help you really think about your goals in the industry, what a good fit path for you might be, what certifications are you going to invest in? If you're also going to get certifications, what might they need to be? If you're going to go for an internship, what kind of internship should you be looking for? Where should you be looking? They can start, helping you strategize around all these things. And, maybe, like I said, if they become more of a champion, they could even start opening doors. And then when you're graduating, you're in a much better spot.
All right. So Zippo Master says, have you heard of the Scholarship for Service program? And do you have any advice for getting into federal cybersecurity field / is mentoring different for the federal level? We do get a lot of federal questions, a lot of Govy job folks in chat. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I would say if you want to go the federal route, it is important to get a mentor that's in that space, right? You'll be much better off with finding a mentor that's currently working within the federal government and can help you navigate it. But one of the things that I've seen quite a bit about federal roles is if you can get your Security Plus, which tends to be one of the federal job requirements, and you can get a security clearance. That's like two of the big keys to being hired in a federal position.
And I think the Sec Plus is because it's DoD 8570 required, and so it's knocking out that gatekeeper kind of responsibility. Pillars of Modernity says, question about the LinkedIn course on Battleship. When will it be released?
Oh man, I was.
You should have mentioned it. You should have mentioned it.
So the LinkedIn course on Battleship, it should be released by the end of the month. Fingers crossed. I've been saying that now for a while. We have most of the content for the course. It's just like, it's finding the time to put everything together and get it out. So I say we run this mentoring as a passion project. This is like my husband and I run the company together. We have a third co-founder, Tim J. He's in our Discord. If you've been seeing Tim, that's him. He's so awesome in the Discord. And our day jobs are actually helping startups and technology companies with getting SOC 2. Okay, so like the core business of Battleship is actually with around like SOC 2 attestation, and then all of the mentoring and everything is a passion project. And so some of these courses have been pushed out as we've prioritized other things, including new certification study groups, which were a huge undertaking. But in our Discord, we're now running study groups for Security Plus, OSCP, and CISP certifications. And next week we're going to launch the CYSA and the AWS Certified Security Certificate.
Gotcha. But it is coming soon. The proverbial soon.
It's coming. It is coming. We talk about it a lot. And if you've already signed up for one of our courses, if you've signed up for Get the InfoSec interview, or you follow me on Twitter, I promise you'll get notified when it's live.
All right. So Stay Blazing says, is your mentorship program a good way to expand your network?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I think that getting mentors is one of the best ways to expand your network, because once your mentors get to know you, they're usually willing to make introductions to other people they know. They can recommend groups you should get involved in. I think it's a fantastic way to network.
Wait, there we go. Here we go. Jazz Card says, for Katelyn, do you have any success stories from your mentorship program? I imagine you've probably got quite a few of those.
We have success stories, even though it's only been running now for it's coming on 3 months. We are having success stories from the mentorship program. So everybody that's been involved in the mentorship program that is telling us about their experience is super excited and happy with it. And what we've seen is that people have been able to negotiate, so some quick wins we've had are that people have negotiated difficult problems at work, for instance. So they found themselves in a difficult situation, and they were able to utilize their mentor to handle it and move past it right at work. Another person was faced with taking a promotion or leaving for a new job, and how do they navigate that? So that was another really quick win. I haven't heard yet if anybody has been hired out of the program, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened. It just means that I haven't heard about it.
That means it's happened. Well, I'll teach you this in the business world. That means it's happened, Katelyn.
Okay, it happened.
Let me, before I get into this next question, do you have any failures? You know, we always talk about successes, but let's talk about our failures. What have been some of the failures that have come out of the program that have allowed you to move past or move forward, or change the way that you run the program?
I mean, this is a really good one, because we actually, I tell people that we like to fail fast, and we like to figure out like how things work and then make them better. And so we're iterating all the time. And one of the things that we found out early on is that when we first started signing up mentors, we would sign them up in the program, and then we would ask them to do an onboarding call. And we completely changed that, because not all a lot of the mentors that like first signed up, like the first few, were like, oh, well, I'm already in, I don't need the onboarding call. And that like, yes, you do. Yes, you. So now the process is, our mentors get on an onboarding call. We explain the program, we explain the expectations, and we make sure that everybody's on the same page, like right off the bat, so that you're a mentor and the mentee, like they know what everybody else has been told and what the expectation is. So that was one of the kind of our early lessons learned with the mentoring in particular.
Okay. Fasochi Ashwell, glad to see you in chat again, Fasochi. He or she, they're a frequent visitor of the stream, frequent question asker. Katelyn, if you had to do it all over again, what would you have done different?
Oh my gosh. This is such like a difficult soul searching question. If I had to do it all over again, I don't know if I can think of anything that I would do differently.
Oh,
I
that's
think
too
that
easy. That's too easy. Come on.
I know, it's really convoluted, because like my path has been really weird in cyber. So I'm doing like, right, like I'm helping like the TAM Leading Group build a security program. I'm doing that CISO work, but I also have a security startup, right? So we've been building a business in security. And if anybody wants to talk about like lessons learned and starting a business in security, hit me up. I'm happy to tell you. Happy to share like both the side, like all of these lessons learned around doing like what basically we're doing is security consulting as a platform. But I think I would have understood earlier. I wish I had understood earlier some of the nuances of the cybersecurity community and how things worked. It's only really been for me in the past year or so for me to really understand. Even though I've been in security a long time, I've been talking to a lot of people in security a long time, I didn't really understand how it worked from a like how are teams built, what are people focused on, like what are the characteristics of people that get into certain jobs. Like that took me actually spending an inordinate amount of time on social media to understand. And it also took me a lot of time spent on social media to understand like the fact that I think that the skills gap is total BS, which is like what I was telling you earlier. I don't think that there's a skills gap. Like I built a company when we first built Battleship. We built it to do basically like a freelancing platform to match security freelancers with small and medium businesses. And that was based on this premise that there's a skills gap, and it turns out that like that's baloney. The skills, there's a lot of people with a lot of skills and a lot of technical people, and the problems are much. That's not the problem. Is that we have like bad job posts, and we have a lot of gatekeeping, and like everybody wants to hire a unicorn,
But don't you think so? We could get on a high horse about skills gap, because I subscribe to the skills gap, mentality, and I think that it's for those reasons that you just described that we have a skills gap. We don't have a talent gap. We have tons of talent in the pipeline, but it's because of those things that you mentioned that we have a skills gap in enterprise.
Yeah, that's true. So what happens is now we don't have the people in the roles in the enterprise because because talent is not being appropriately moved through the pipeline. And a lot of people who want the jobs, who can do the jobs, aren't being considered. So from a lessons learned perspective, like, yeah, that was a huge lesson learned for me about like how is the industry working from a people perspective. And we ended up like, we did two things. We completely shifted the focus of our consulting business. We still have a platform, but it's super focused on helping tech companies get this SOC 2 attestation. But at the same time, we said, oh my gosh, why don't we help address this? Why don't we go help people break in or advance in security through mentoring? Like, let's do something about it. Let's do something about these systemic talent issues that we're seeing, and like attack this head on with mentorship.
Makes sense. So 8 Caesar comes through. Looks like it maybe a little garbled up in there. How similar, how familiar maybe are you with boot camps? And maybe I'll kind of interpret that one a little bit here, if anybody can, if 8 Caesar, if you want to rephrase that question, but how similar or familiar are you with boot camps, and kind of what's your take on that?
So through our mentoring program, we are not a boot camp. Like, we aren't, like, typically boot camps are putting you through classes and teaching you technical skills. And, you know, what we're doing is helping you find your path in security, helping you work through an issue you might be having at work, helping you decide, you know, should you go for an analyst role, or should you really try to get in, you know, as in compliance? Should you try to start with pen testing, or should you kind of try to go sideways and start on a blue team position? So that's where people are using mentoring. It's not to learn those base skills. You know, mentoring could help you decide if you need a boot camp. Mm-hmm. That's another use case, but yeah, it's not a boot camp.
Howdy, hey sup. Howdy, hey sup to you too as well. So would spearfishing a prospective mentor be frowned upon or not?
I would say no. I would never advocate spearfish a mentor.
Probably a bad idea. Probably a bad idea. Yeah. And Piper, glad to see you in chat. And Piper, good to see you as well. I like the cheese icon that you've got there. Good on you. I've always wondered why cybersecurity, or even IT as a whole, have this sort of mentorship program. I have friends in other fields, accounting, optician, etc., and these fields don't have this concept. You want to kind of opine on that a little bit, Katelyn?
Yeah. So actually, I would say so when you look at tech, though, when you look at technology, other technology fields, especially software engineering, do have this concept. And we haven't seen it really come to fruition within security. I mean, we're now, you know, we're really trying to do it in a way that's like, that can scale and be really programmatic. But, you know, opticians or any kind of doctor, they have to go through medical school, they have to go through residency. There is like a pipeline really into those roles. And accounting is kind of the same thing, right? They go to school, they get a CPA, and they get a job. Security is really a young field. And part of the issues that we're seeing today are from how young the field really is. So it's, you know, not only did it just get really going in the past, I would say even 20 years. Like, before that, hardly anybody was working in security, but it's been changing a lot, and it's been exploding, right? Like, all of the paths into security are changing so much, like the job roles are changing, that it's created a lot of confusion in the industry. So that's one of the reasons why mentoring is so important. Like, it's not nearly as hard to become an accountant. Like, that job role is like super fun. You know, like you don't just become a cybersecurity person, you become an incident responder, you become like a pen tester. And that's, you know, you have to find those, you have to be able to figure out, okay, which role is right for you and how do you get there?
Yeah. So Psychedelic Nazgul, I love the weird little, I think that's a Lord of the Rings reference there, wants to know, what if a mentor or mentee isn't a US citizen? Would you mentor internationals?
Yeah, so like our mentoring program is international. We have mentors from all over the world. We have mentees from all over the world. And you definitely don't have to be a US citizen to participate in our program. So like right now we have mentors in the UK, in Israel, in Australia, in Canada. Like we have people everywhere.
There you go. So everybody who's listening, everybody who listens to this VOD tomorrow from overseas, you can get in on this program. Use that exclamation point mentorship in chat, and you can get a link for that, and you can use that. Real quick, I want to remind everybody we are coming up to the top of the hour, so make sure you do get those questions in. We're gonna try to knock through some of these questions, and then we're gonna go raid another cybersecurity technology streamer, one that we've rated before. So don't anybody go anywhere. Stick around for the stream, but do make sure you get those questions in as we do come up to the top of the hour. Katelyn, Alienbug 2014 says, can somebody over the age of 50 with years of physical security, specifically in access control, CCTV, and alarms, can they get into cybersecurity without a degree, and could a mentor help guide them?
So I think it could be possible, and a mentor could definitely help guide you. I think I would say I've had a very similar use case from someone actually come to me with almost this exact use case. They were in the Secret Service for many years and over 50, and that was perceived as physical security, got a CISP, having a hard time getting into security. So I think a mentor can help guide you about what might be the best path. There are some more roles now that are like blending physical and cyber in the role. And I think it's also around like what your expectations are. So a lot of times when people are having a hard time, it's because of like expectation management. So, and it can be really hard, if breaking into cyber means you have to take an entry-level role, are you willing to do that? It's kind of like a soul searching question. Are you willing to go kind of like take a few steps back in your career, because now you're going to have to sort of start all over. But a mentor can really help guide you decide, what might be the best fit for you, and where should you be looking.
The mindful atheist says, God, I always worry about what's going to come out of my mouth when I do some of these names. The mindful atheist wants to know, do you have any advice for women breaking into the industry? What has your experience been like, especially at the beginning?
So I found that there are some amazingly supportive groups for women breaking into the industry, women in cybersecurity. So WeSys has a really supportive group. They have a big Facebook community you can join. And like generally a lot of women in the industry have been trying to like help other women get in. And for me, it's like when you're looking at a job as a woman breaking into the industry, you want to look for those companies that seem like they have a more diverse team. You want to try to go find out like who are the companies that seem to have women in leadership positions? Where are those companies that seem to be elevating women within the IT, like in the IT space? Like I would do some OSINT on the companies that you are interested in working at.
What about can you share what your experience was like, at the beginning trying to get into cybersecurity as a woman?
So I really didn't personally experience a lot of adversity getting in. So when I was getting into security, I didn't even know it was a problem, right? I wasn't even aware. This is really interesting. I wasn't thinking about it because I wasn't aware it was an issue. And then I started noticing that as I was working in the space, I was like, wow, even more than generally in IT, there seem to be a lot of men here. but like it was never a negative thing for me personally.
Yeah. Muckety Muck says, how does the matching system work? Is the matching by mentor choice?
No, the matching is not by mentor choice. So what we do is we use an algorithm. So we look at like how much does our algorithm say you match, and then we take what we know from your interview and the mentor interview to match you together. Mentees and mentors both have the option after you meet to say, oh, this doesn't feel like a good fit. I want to end this. But like I said, the mentee can do that too, and then we just rematch you, right? So you get matched with another person. But no, it's not by mentor choice.
Gotcha. Uh, Darth Maul, glad to see you in chat as well. Hey, Katelyn, what do you have to say about remote jobs from countries in the third world? Do you have any opinion on remote jobs from third world countries?
I would say that there has been an increase in remote jobs from third world countries recently, and like some platforms are making it easier to work remotely from a third world country, like especially within the pen testing space. So Cobalt takes pen testers from around the world. Synac takes pen testers from around the world. There are, if you're in the red team, if you're doing pen testing, and then really from like actually getting hired to do a job, I'm starting to see more security teams getting outsourced to more developing nations.
Jazz Card says, Katelyn, before we go, look at Jazz Card. Before we go, what is one last piece of parting advice for us aspiring cybersecurity students?
Keep an open mind, always keep learning, and work on networking now. Like, I cannot emphasize it enough. Work on networking. Try to talk to as many people as you can. Like, even if it's uncomfortable, even if you feel like, oh my gosh, somebody didn't respond to you. I have had so many people not respond to me. When we started Battleship, I was reaching out to some people to ask them who had started cybersecurity companies if they would help mentor me, and like crickets,
nobody was interested in helping you.
Like total crickets, and it's okay. Like so I would just say like it's okay. Don't get discouraged. Keep going forward. Work on your networking. Start asking yourself early, what kind of job do I really want to do? Where do I see myself being successful? Think about your personality, and then try to go get some hands-on experience if at all possible, using networking or not, but try to get some hands-on experience in that space.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask the mods to pick one or two more questions. We are coming up to 5 minutes at the top of the hour. I'm gonna ask the mods to pick one or two more questions. If you do want to get a priority question in, just like Jazz Card did, make sure you do utilize your Hacked Planet scores to do so. But otherwise, I'll ask the moderators to find one or two more questions for Katelyn. Fatfinger says, "What would happen if you get a mentor but it will not click? Can you change your mentor after a week or a month?"
Yeah, you can change your mentor. So that's part of our program fee is how hands-on we are. So if you're we ask you to give the relationship a try, right? We ask both the mentors and the mentees, like, give the relationship a try, like the good old college try. Try to see if don't just discount it after one meeting. But if you feel like after a few meetings it's just really not the right fit for you, we will rematch you.
All right, so Carmen, is this the last question? Let me know if this is the last question. But Katelyn, has it been difficult to start entrepreneurship and maintain your current role in cyber?
Yeah, I mean, what I ended up doing was going into a vCISO role at the Tambellini Group, so that I could be full time in Battleship, and I don't know how anybody could do it otherwise. When my husband started Battleship with me, he quit his full-time job, and he did that in March of 2019. And we've had conversations a lot like, man, we cannot even imagine having other full-time jobs and doing this. Like it is intense. It is intense to be an entrepreneur in security.
I've heard a lot about SSP3XX. Says, I've heard a lot about getting a job as a pen tester or IT security person, analyst, sysadmin, but what about application security? What is your recommendation for people who want to do vulnerability discovery, development, source code analysis?
Oh, so I would say awesome. Awesome, because AppSec is exploding, and there are a lot of opportunities. It's a growing field. if you but you need to have those like technical, that coding background to really be successful there, typically in those job postings. I was recently just looking through job postings around like vulnerability discovery, source code analysis from the perspective of getting into cyber threat intelligence, being in a really like technical cyber threat intel role. And you're going to have a big leg up if you can say, yeah, I've been coding whatever it is, like Python, and here's my GitHub repository.
Right.
That's gonna take you a long way. But yeah, I getting into these other areas of security. I mean, we didn't talk about them a lot because actually a lot of people don't ask me about them, but it's there's going to be more opportunities there than trying to get on red team.
Would you say, when it comes to vulnerability discovery, development, source code analysis, wouldn't those fall in line with something like maybe HackerOne, BugCrowd? You mentioned Cobalt.io, right? Those types of crowdsourced, kind of bug bounty programs.
Neil, we could talk a long time about my thoughts on bug bounty programs.
Quick, give us your 1 minute pitch on bug bounty programs. I may want to bring you back for this one, but what's your 1 minute thing on bug bounty?
Well, I would say that a lot of people don't make any money doing bug bounty. They spend a ton of time doing it, and it's like free work. And I don't really subscribe to that whole thing. Like if you're working, I think you should be paid. And a lot of people just don't make any money doing it. It's really hard. Like you hear a lot about people. They're like, yeah, I made $1 million this year doing bug bounty, and like, yeah, and you were the one person. so it's definitely, yeah. There are, like, if you want to go look for those vulnerabilities, if you want to do that pen testing side of it, there's definitely, there are ways to get started doing it. But, even going into like the source code analysis piece, like there are some really interesting jobs at vendors. A lot of people don't think about this. There are some really interesting jobs at vendors. Like one company is like Proofpoint, that does a lot of vulnerability analysis. They do a lot of source code analysis. They do a lot of reverse malware engineering. Like that's some really cool stuff. And like some of those jobs are only jobs you can do working at these top security vendors.
Well, there you go, folks. Hard truth. That's what you come here for. Real conversations with real people. Heard it straight from the expert's mouth right there. Bug bounties are a waste of your time. Get paid for your work, I think, is the bottom line there, right, Katelyn?
Yeah, right. Get paid for your work.
Get paid for your work. So don't anybody go anywhere. Nobody go anywhere. We're gonna go raid a streamer. We've raided him before. He's doing some great work over there. So nobody go anywhere because we are gonna go raid a streamer. Katelyn, on behalf of my moderators, on behalf of my viewers, on behalf of myself, thank you so very much for gracing us with your knowledge and experience and helping us learn. Anybody who didn't get questions asked, I'm going to go ahead and volunteer Katelyn. Hit that exclamation point socials one more time so that you can get Katelyn's LinkedIn and her Twitter account. Sorry we didn't get to your question. As you can see, we tried to churn through them pretty quickly, but feel free to spam Katelyn's DMs and blow hers up for a little while if I missed anything from her. But Katelyn, thank you so very much. Would you like to have any closing remarks for our audience whatsoever?
Yeah, I would tell everybody listening, don't discount the power of getting a mentor. Even if you're like in a really advanced point in your career, think about, how might you be able to meet some of those goals that you've been working on if you had somebody else to be a sounding board for you and to help you like think outside the box and be that, be that person who can like have these confidential conversations. It can be really extremely helpful. And if you're looking for a study group for certifications, come to our Discord. It's totally free to get into a study group. We're going to be we have like 3 now, 2 more this week. We're going to be more coming. So even if you feel like you can't pay for mentorship now, there's a lot of informal mentoring happening in our Discord as well. So you're more than welcome. I have that Discord link all over my socials, and reach out anytime. I try to answer all of my DMs. One time I did a tweet and I got 500 people DMing me. I couldn't answer everybody.
For up-to-the-minute cybersecurity news, make sure you follow and subscribe to the Cyber Insecurity channel on Twitch and YouTube. Also, make sure you turn on those notifications so that you know when we go live.